Welcome to another episode of ExplainIT. This time we're going to be doing a little bit of a different sort of structure. It's going to be a mini clip. So 7 minutes, we're going to go through one industry and ask some really key questions. Today, I'm with Matt Rudder and the big boss, Steve Edwards. How you going, fellas?
Very well, mate. Good, thanks, mate.
So today we're starting off with healthcare. Now, this is an industry where there's obviously patient data that's very sensitive. People don't want their data getting out there, as well as payment details and little things that can be used maliciously against patients and customers and staff and doctors. So let's talk about some of those risks in the healthcare industry. What are they and what risks do they pose to a small business?
Yeah, I'll kick off. We do a fair bit of work with GPs and like allied health providers. And one of the I suppose like the biggest kind of day-to-day risk that they face is really just their systems not working and ending up with a waiting room full of patients. So having the reliability of good IT systems in place is pretty key. You know, if you ever walked into like a GP surgery where, you know, there's 10, 20, 30 people waiting in line, sometimes the IT is a little bit behind. We've had a few instances where, let's say the internet has gone down for a client, for example, and they're running a cloud-based practice management software. They don't know which patient is next in line, so to speak. So a lot of things like that on a day-to-day level, they can cause a lot of problems.
Yeah. And from the grander risk that these cyber threats could be, what could they do to a business? What's the impact they could have?
Yeah, I mean, there's risks left, right and centre. I mean, there's a lot of confidential data that these places hold. For example, confidential data on the dark web sells for about $150 per person.
Wow.
So these attackers are trying to get in and grab as much as they can in one hit. They don't care what it is, who it is. They're going for volume. So think about how many patients are in the the doctor's database. It could be thousands and thousands over time, people that come in once off. All that's worth about $150 a pop. So these attackers are trying to get in, grab a copy of all of it, and then they're just going to sell it on the dark web.
Yeah, one of their kind of targets is if they can exfiltrate this kind of personally identifiable information, they don't need to do anything with it themselves, but the hackers can then go sell that to other parties who then maybe want to commit identity theft or identity fraud. They've kind of just grabbed all of this useful info and they can shuffle it off to somebody else and make their bucks and then walk away, you know.
I mean, that's really freaky. That is really freaky. That's kind of like as someone out there who, everyone goes to a doctor and your data is out there and your personal data is sitting with people and you're trusting that practice to be able to take care of it.
That's right. There was a big thing just recently about the My Health record from the federal government. There's a bit of conjecture surrounding the security of that. One of the things that we see within general practitioners a fair amount is the doctors and practice managers are so busy that the security of the information their systems hold, it doesn't come front of mind. They're very much focused on the reliability of those systems so they can keep working and keep seeing patients. But it's all of these kind of external threats that are present, but the doctors and practice managers, it's not front of mind necessarily for them.
Yeah.
But if something bad does happen, then they're in a world of hurt.
Yeah.
So that's the type of stuff that we like to try and educate people in the healthcare field about.
Yeah, a lot of people see security as making life harder for a business, but there's just so much risk and so many attacks going on. We see, even if a practice might not see it, but if we look at their, the data that we can see, there's foreign people from overseas trying to log in constantly. Minute by minute, there's failed login attempts. And that's happening all throughout the day, overnight, when the business is closed. And that's what we've got to worry about and try to protect them from.
One thing I think that businesses are constantly thinking about is, what can we do? What do we need to consider right now as a business, but what do we need to prioritise not just on the hard section of having things like antivirus softwares, but also thinking along the lines of education and what people know. How can a business prepare for this?
So I think the single biggest thing that if you look at healthcare as an industry, they're under a lot of regulation from the government already. A lot of them don't necessarily take the IT element of that into consideration. There's certain accreditation processes that the GPs need to do, for example, for their practice. They're supposed to tick a lot of boxes with regards to the IT. They don't necessarily do that all the time. It's not front of mind as much. So I think the biggest thing to do is get someone in to do a bit of an assessment on their IT environment. Start talking about cybersecurity with professionals, whether it's us or somebody else. Start having the discussion about it so that the practice owners and managers can just build up their understanding and awareness of the type of threat that is out there, because it's pretty substantial. And the damage happens when nobody's looking for it. One day it'll just happen, and then it's too late. So starting that discussion is pretty much the first step. And then considering that it might seem like a big mountain to climb, but it's not really. It's just a couple of steps to get started. And once you're on the path, it becomes a lot easier.
Yeah.
And one thing you do see is these risks pop up and they go away, and they sometimes they seem like unavoidable, and other times they seem like they're not even there. So how do you know whether the risk is there? Do you just have to assume it's always there?
Yeah, it's pretty much the way to go. Yeah. The risks are everywhere. It's constantly happening. Like I said, you might not see it, but they're definitely out there and happening all day, every day.
Yeah, and that's without I suppose being overzealous and exaggerating it. Like it's legit, like it's non-stop. It's not people doing it, it's just these automated programs trying to breach systems, for example. And once they find a door that they can knock on, they're going to try and open it up.
Yeah.
Definitely. And just to finish off on the topic of healthcare, speaking to a small practice or a medium-sized practice that's thinking about their IT defence and their cyber strategy, what would you say to them as a first step, how they should approach getting a service, whether that's a managed IT service or a specific cybersecurity service?
Yeah, I think the first thing to do is jump onto our website. We've got a specific section on our site relating to the healthcare industry. There's a bit of information on there and the type of services we can provide and the software which we work with a lot. And second from that, just get in touch with us. Happy to have a discussion and no obligation or anything like that. And love to help them out.
Matt, anything from your end?
No, pretty much that's it. I guess the only other thing that we recommend everyone has nowadays is cyber insurance. It slips a lot of people's minds when they're getting insurances. You get your professional indemnity, your professional liability, but make sure you get cyber insurance. Loads of other insurances just won't cover any IT-related incidents. So get that cyber insurance, get it up and running. It's one you hope you never have to use, but when something goes wrong, that's when you need it.
Definitely. Two great pieces of advice. And that's all there is to healthcare IT is make sure you are defended, make sure you have the service there, you're educated, and of course you have the insurance just in case it goes wrong. If you're looking for any more details on our healthcare cybersecurity service, please get in touch with us at aitsys.com.au on our website, and we can organise a free consultation and see what your issues are in the short term and the long term. Thanks, guys.
Thanks,
Alex.